shows I have watched this year, and I kind of had to rack my brains on what shows I have been watching. So I thought maybe in this episode, considering this is the penultimate episode of 2025, I would give you my top 5 TV shows that I've watched this year. And that is going to be mostly shows that I have watched on streaming services. And I will tell you now, spoilers for my top 5, they were all on Disney Plus. Not that I haven't been watching any other show on different platforms, but my most loved shows that I've watched this year all came off of Disney Plus or Disney Plus adjacent, Hulu, Disney Plus, because we don't have Hulu here in Australia. It comes through to Disney Plus for us. So yes, essentially they will be shows that I have watched from Disney Plus. They're in my top 5, but I have watched a lot of other shows, 17 to be more precise, or I should say 16.2 shows. The point 2 is just me saying I tried a show for a couple episodes and it didn't really gel with me, so I kind of stopped watching it. And I never went back to it or never completed it. So that's why that one's a point 2. So, and I'm not going to say what it is because I know I'm probably going to get a lot of flack for it, or there's going to be a lot of judgment. But I like what I like. All right. And I'm not going to tell you what that number 17 show is, or that point 2 show. But I was just mentioning that I've been trying to rack my brain on the shows that I've been watching, and I forgot that I had created a list for myself to keep up with the shows I've been watching this year on IMDb. So IMDb, if you have like a free account, you can create lists and watch lists and all that sort of stuff. I have a watch list of movies. I usually use the IMDb watch list section to chuck in any of the movies that I am looking forward to seeing at some point or another, so that they are there for me to refer back to. But they also have what's called lists as a feature on IMDb, and you can actually sort of make private lists or make your list public if you want. My list is private. It's more so for me, just so that I can remember what I've been watching this year. So I kind of wish there was a letterboxed for TV shows, because then I can actually refer back to it and to see what shows I have watched. But unfortunately, letterboxed is only for films, which is cool in its own right. And I've been using that all year to write down or keep a list of all of the movies that I have watched on my letterboxd, and then I've also been doing my best to review every movie I have watched as well, just so that I can also remember how I felt after watching it, and my thoughts and opinions on it. Because when you watch something, and especially if it's a movie you've watched once, you automatically just forget after a while, unless it impacts you quite a bit. And I know there are movies for me that have really impacted me and they've stuck with me for a while. So obviously those ones I won't forget. But there are movies out there that I just, I watched it, I enjoyed it for what it was, and then I've essentially forgotten the plot points of it, or I've forgotten who the characters or the actors, performers were in those films. So it's nice. It's a nice way for me to refer back on what I have watched in the past, and to also remind myself of what my thoughts and feelings were yeah, at that particular time, just so that I can be like, I'm pretty so that I'm not like turning around to people when they ask me, oh, have you watched this particular movie? Then I can, most of the time I turn around and I'm usually very unsure and I tell them, I think I have. But in this instance now, I can refer to my letterbox and say, oh, look, yes, I did watch that movie and this is how I felt about it. And it'll be a nice little reminder. But we're not here to talk about movies. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge might be for next episode. So just keep an eye out for that one. This episode, more specifically, will be about TV shows or series that I have watched throughout 2025. And I'm going to give you my top 5 today. Mostly because the fact that even though I have watched quite a few shows this year, I don't have enough time in the world to talk about all of them. So I'm just going to give you my top 5. And we're going to start off with my number 5. And that is Star Wars Tales of the Underworld. Now, this is a mini-series. There's only 6 episodes in this particular mini-series. It was very fascinating. I'm a big fan of the Star Wars lore and just learning about all the different things that, like, in terms of story and plot points and characters. The Tales of series in the Star Wars franchise has been really interesting for me to learn more about different characters, their past, what they became to be. Because, when you go and watch Star Wars films or, animated shows, a lot of them from the past, you see these different characters come through and then you're not sure what to make of them because of what sometimes they give you some flashbacks about that particular character, but most of the time it's usually about the main characters or the protagonists. You don't really see too much about their past lives. There's in Tales of the Underworld, this one's more about the anti-heroes or the ones that we called the enemies from the main Star Wars series. And this one follows the galaxy's criminal underworld. So it follows Asajj Ventress, a former assassin who flees with a new ally while Cad Bane confronts his past when meeting an old friend turned marshal. I was very, very curious about Asajj Ventress and Cad Bane. So the fact that these two have their own little callback, I suppose, in Tales of the Underworld was actually really cool to find out. And after watching it, I was actually really pleased about the information that I got. Now, I will preface here, I may be a big Star Wars fan. I have watched a lot of these Star Wars shows, the animated series, the live action shows, the limited series. I have watched the Star Wars movies, pretty much all of the Star Wars movies that are out there, aside from, of course, like the short children's ones or the Lego ones. But I won't go out of my way and say that I am a Star Wars nerd. I can't go out of my way to talk to you about specific characters and their lore because my brain is a bit of a sieve and it doesn't always retain all the information that I want to be able to keep in there. Most of the time, my brain's only keeping kind of useless information. Either that or it's information about my work. And that's what takes up most of my brain power to remember things. So when it comes to stuff like this in terms of pop culture and especially Star Wars, it's very hard to keep up with all of the lore and all of the different characters in the world of Star Wars. So But I was curious about Asajj Ventress, given that we came across her in the Clone Wars, and I think Rebels as well, if I'm remembering correctly. Probably not, but someone might. You can correct me if I'm wrong. And the fact that she didn't actually start off as someone who was, of the Empire originally was really, really interesting. And then ends up becoming an assassin to then sort of trying to find her way out of it again. I really enjoyed her lore. She was really interesting to learn about, and yeah, it's like her character sort of goes on a bit of a journey. So I did really enjoy Asajj Ventress's backstory. Now, Asajj Ventress, her lightsaber is yellow. Not something you would really associate with the Empire or, being evil. And that was also really fascinating to learn. So I like that she's not necessarily a hero, nor is she an enemy, but she's an anti-hero, I suppose, if you want to call her that. The other thing I will say is that Asajj Ventress's voice actor was played by Nika Futterman or Futterman. I'm sorry if I'm pronouncing that incorrectly. She was really cool. Her voice it's got this like gruff kind of low voice, like sound, that I found really, really curious. But it suits the character. It really does. So I'm kind of glad that they found the right person for that role. And yeah, when it came to Cad Bane, that one is an interesting character. So the fact that he grew up with was it a friend? Yes, with an old friend. They both grew up as orphans, essentially. And they had to do whatever they could to survive, essentially. But between the two of them, Cad was more the cunning, more of a cunning character. And it was interesting, it's really hard to talk about in terms of where how it all came about for those two. Nero, that's Cad Bane's friend, Nero. I was trying to remember the name as my brain just kind of stopped for a moment there. Apologies. So yeah, Nero and Cad, those two were really good friends. They grew up together because they were orphans. And then just sort of seeing the way that they end up developing their own personalities, where Nero was very wary about certain situations, and he didn't like getting into trouble as much, and knowing that there is a lot of crime out there anyway, for him to then be part of it. He didn't want to be part of the crime that was happening in his neighborhood, whereas Cad was doing whatever he could to make sure he made enough money to survive and then some. And he wanted to make sure that he was rich and powerful, and that he could be called upon if necessary for any job. So yeah, because being orphans is really tough, and they, to survive, they had to steal to eat. So they did sort of start off with a bit of a sad life. But then eventually it sort of fast forwards to the point where they're older, they're adults. They've both found their paths in their lives. Cad, obviously, we know that he goes more in the negative sort of realm of all of the kind of underworld style of, doing things for money that aren't necessarily very good. Like obviously being a bounty hunter and, killing people that he's contracted to kill. But then his friend Nero ends up being a marshal. He's essentially against the law. He is the law, where Cad Bane is against it. And so they have this like confrontation, and Cad ends up doing some bad stuff. I was about to spoil it. If you haven't seen Tales of the Underworld, I do recommend you watch it. If you are a fan of the Star Wars franchise and if you want to learn more about these characters. I will also preface, I'm not very good at explaining things that I have seen because a lot of the times my brain is scrambling to remember everything that I watched from these shows, and then I'm trying to piece it all together and be like, what, wait, was it that? What was the thing that I'm trying to remember? And then I fumble over my own words. So apologies if I'm not, convincing or explaining some of these shows well enough for you to go out of your way to go and watch it. I would say if you are a Star Wars fan, you love learning about the lore of different characters within the franchise. If you have seen Clone Wars, if you have seen Rebels, you would be doing yourself a disservice if you do not watch the Tales of series, because they touch on these different characters that we already know. Definitely would recommend you go and watch it. Tales of the Underworld. It's only 6 episodes, not very long at all. And each episode is about 18 minutes. So it's very good. Definitely recommend Star Wars Tales of the Underworld if you are a fan of the Star Wars franchise. So that is my number 5. My number 4, going into my number 4 here, still Star Wars related here. And this one's also animated. It is Star Wars Visions. And more specifically, Season 3, because Season 3 came out this year. But I have been watching the Star Wars Visions series since it came out in 2021. It is very cool to see these different animation styles, these very talented animation studios bring forth their own versions of a Star Wars story in one small episode, which only goes for about 20 minutes. These different art styles that you see in Star Wars Visions is very fascinating and so cool. And then the stories that go into them, the stories that they tell, are really, really just... I don't know how else to really describe it, but other than they are amazing. Season 3, we had really cool characters, really cool stories. I think a lot of them are Jedi related stories. Ones that look very sort of like, so episode 1 of season 3, the dual payback, is very it's black and white. It's a Japanese kind of Ronin version of a Star Wars character, samurai-ish in a way. Very cool. Very cool concept. I really like that. Then going into episode 2, the Song of Four Wings, where a princess turned rebel protects a child from the might of the Empire on a snowbound planet. That was really cool. Episode 3, The Ninth Jedi, Child of Hope. This one got a lot more of a high praise. And it was really cool. It was pursued by Jedi hunters and blasted adrift into space. Kara encounters a seemingly abandoned ship tended to by a mysterious droid. Really awesome looking animation style. A lot of these are, something that I honestly wouldn't have come across in terms of their art styles. There have been some art styles where they do stop motion. I believe season 2 had a lot more stop motion, whereas season 3 is very heavy on the kind of the anime style almost. If you want to sort of give it a name of the animation. Most of these are very anime, especially if you look at episode 8, The Bird of Paradise. Which is after she is blinded in battle, a hot-headed Jedi Padawan must undergo a series of spiritual trials in order to overcome the temptation of the dark side. All the stories for each of these episodes are really, really cool. And just really kind of like, they really get you in, they immerse you into the story as well. So that's why I absolutely really loved watching Star Wars Visions, and mostly because of the fact that it's these different animation studios coming out and showing off their talents in their art, in their storytelling, in their character designs. It's just so awesome to see this sort of talent coming through from all these different animation studios, and the way that they're telling these Star Wars stories is also really, really cool. So I would definitely recommend checking out Star Wars Visions if you are so inclined. Again, if you're into the Star Wars franchise, Visions is a no-brainer. Especially if you do enjoy your animated stuff, please definitely go do yourself a favor and watch Star Wars Visions. They don't take very long. There's overall, all 3 episodes in total, there's 27 episodes. All 3 seasons, 27 episodes. So it's not, each season has a short amount of episodes. It's not very long at all. I think they're about 9 episodes each, roughly. Yeah, I think the math works out. 3 seasons, 27 divided by 3 is 9. Yeah, that makes sense. But then again, who knows? Maybe one season has 7 and the other one has 10. I don't know. I can't remember. But going into my number 3, again, Star Wars, and this will be the final Star Wars in my top 5. It's a Star Wars related show. It's not animated this time, but it is season 2 of Andor. Yes, Andor. Holy crap, what a show. I love this particular series. The story went up a notch in season 2. Season 1 already sold me. It was really, really there was a lot of drama in there. And you don't need Jedis to be able to tell a Star Wars story. This is proof of that. This particular show is absolutely proof of that. And I love it. I love it so much. Diego Luna as Cassian Andor, brilliant casting with that. Absolutely awesome. And then you've got all these other different characters. You've got your Luthen, you've got your Bix, Cyril, Deirdre. It's just Mon Mothma is back as well. So cool. And this series just blew my mind with the way that they tell the story. Season 2 was epic, I will say. The only thing that I'm going to mention here is that there were obviously, like every other show, there are some episodes where it kind of slows down. But overall, most of these episodes are really good. Very, very cool. Which episode was the one? Episode 1. So because season 2 is happening a year after season 1 happened, we come to the point where we have what happened in episode 1. An undercover mission, a sanctuary threatened, a Chandrillian wedding, and a chilling imperial plan. That's right. So Mon Mothma's daughter was betrothed to be married. And I kid you not, the way that they did the wedding, the way that things were escalating, I was just taken aback, right? The way that Mon Mothma, her costumes are always so beautiful. The costumes that she gets to wear in this show, my goodness, I would love to be able to wear, gowns like that. They look absolutely beautiful. I think this was this the episode that had the way that episode ended. She ended up going off, she ended up dancing to some really awesome music that I could not stop listening to once that episode had aired. I'm not sure if it was that episode. It might have been episode 2. If I'm not mistaken. I'm trying to remember so hard. But then again, it may not have been episode 2 because she's not even in it. Or maybe she is. I don't know. Here I am trying to remember what's going on in the show. No, it was episode 3. Okay, now I remember. All right, I'm just trying to look at all the photos on IMDb from the different scenes. Yeah, it was definitely episode 3. So, the wedding happens and all of a sudden there's drama, there's intensity happening. Things are going wrong, obviously, and Mon Mothma's just had it, she can't take it anymore. She's had a bit more extra to drink at this, at her daughter's wedding, and she just lets loose and dances the night away. And it's the way that they ended that particular episode. That track was insane, absolutely awesome. I loved listening to that track and just watching her dance hard. So good. And the cinematography in this series is absolutely amazing. I'm always just in awe in the way that each scene is framed, the way that it and there's a purpose to each of the framing as well. So cool. The other thing I will also say, I think this was also the episode with Bix. It was where Bix almost gets sexually abused. So a bit of a trigger warning there for that one. And it's just, that's also very intense in its own way too. So yeah, this episode, holy crap, was just, I think, probably one of my favorite episodes in season 2. Harvest. The name of the title of the episode is Harvest in season 2. So cool. And then Cyril and Deirdre's little relationship that was happening as well throughout the season. They've fallen in love. kind of. I don't know what you would call it, to be honest. But you've got those two together, and Cyril's mother is also a character that is one of those characters you want to hate, and most of the time you do. But then by the end of it, yeah, you kind of feel sorry for her as well. Man, Andor, I can't stop gushing about how amazing Andor is. That world, that part of the Star Wars world is just so cool. And I don't know. It's always hard to explain about how awesome some of these shows are. I just love it. I love Andor. Andor's awesome. I still haven't gone out of my way to go back and watch, what was it? Rogue One. So I have seen Rogue One, and I've only seen it that one time when it came out at the cinema. But this time around, after watching Andor, my friends had gone out of their way to watch Rogue One after they had seen the final episode of Andor. And I thought to myself, oh, I could do that too. But then I didn't. Either I didn't have time or it just plumb slipped my mind to actually do it. So I was like, oh, well, it didn't happen. But that doesn't mean I can't go back out of my way to actually go back and watch Rogue One, just to kind of refresh my memory on how it all ended, essentially. Going into my number 2. Now, this one's a Marvel animated series that I honestly had no clue it was actually a thing. Until my my podcasting friends over at Friendly Alien Productions, they told me that they wanted to talk about it, and they thought, you know what, this is probably a good time to go and actually start watching it, and then we can talk about it in chunks of 2 or 3 episodes at a time. And I thought, you know what, why not? That it's like I'm a big fan of animation, and if X-Men 97 can get me hooked into and go back and watch the original X-Men series, the animated series, I feel like, the Marvel studio, the Marvel Animation Studio will definitely do the same thing for me when it comes to Spider-Man. So your friendly neighborhood Spider-Man is my number 2 for this year. I absolutely was flabbergasted in terms of the way that this particular series was animated. It's very, very comic booky. If I want to sort of, in terms of the art style, I love it. I love the art style. It's awesome. I love the way that they actually make it look very tangible in terms of like its paper. It is coming straight out of a comic book, in the way that they design like the panels to then you being able to jump into those panels so that you can see the full scene. The character designs are awesome. And then the way that they told the story in this particular series was really fascinating as well. A Spider-Man show that, or a story, I should say, a Spider-Man story that I did not expect to like. I like Spider-Man. I'm not a big man. I'm not a big fan of Spider-Man, the character, the hero. But Spider-Man is cool, and I just, in this particular sense, in your friendly neighborhood Spider-Man, the way that they animated these characters, and the scenery, it really pulled me in, and I was really engaged in the series, in every episode that I watched. So cool. We have Hudson Thames, who voices Peter Parker. And then we've also got a character here by the name of Lonnie Lincoln, who is voiced by Eugene Bird. And there's this push and pull with Lonnie in the way that the story is being told. They're all going to the site. It's like Lonnie with May and Peter. They all go to the same high school, and we find out that Lonnie's little brother gets into some trouble, and he's trying to help and make sure his brother's safe. He's getting in trouble with these gangs, so he ends up sacrificing himself in becoming a gang member to then save his little brother so that he doesn't get into trouble. And Lonnie is a up and coming football star in his high school team. But then because of the troubles that he's having with his family, he starts falling behind on his studies. His grades are not so great as what they have been. And then he's not turning up for training. So his coach is, not really happy with him. So there's a lot going on in Lonnie's life, because of the gang sort of, situation, I will say. But then we have Peter, who is hiding his identity as Spider-Man, and he has a hard time trying to hide that identity of Spider-Man, because then we find out that Norman Osborn ends up learning that Peter Parker is Spider-Man, accidentally, of course, not his fault, but Peter's fault for not being so discreet. And Norman wants to be part of, Spider-Man's, he wants to kind of be Spider-Man's eyes and ears, essentially, and to help him out with his gadgets and all that sort of thing, and help him, with defense and making sure that he's got the right equipment and weapons, and his spider suit is also, good to go and protects him. And but then you find out Norman has other things in mind, We get to see Doc Ock in this series too, so that's interesting. Like there's a really cool story in this particular series, and the way that they ended season 1, because there is a season 2 coming, and I'm not sure when that will be. It looks like it might be in 2026. So I am actually looking forward to the premiere of season 2. But season 1, just the way that it ended, like tensions were high, and like they solved one gang problem, but then something else arose, and now we're going to find out what's going to happen in season 2 because of that. But in all honesty, Spider-Man, your friendly neighborhood Spider-Man is actually really, really cool. A lot of fun to watch. And it's just really cool that they have these different characters that I, wouldn't have thought about in the past. And it's just a really interesting way of telling a Spider-Man story. Honestly, for whatever reason, I thought Norman Osborn was going to be the big bad as soon as we found out as soon as we found out that Norman Osborn was in this particular series. But then he's more so just trying to help Spider-Man. But as season 1 kept going along, we find out that he has ulterior motives, even if it isn't necessarily towards Spider-Man, but in terms of his own kind of corporate greed and all that sort of thing. So, a lot happens in this particular series. I really enjoyed it. Each episode is about half an hour, and season 1 had about 12 episodes. So I'm going to assume that season 2 will be about the same. So if you love your Spider-Man, movies, if you're interested, if you've been, reading up on the Spider-Man comics, I definitely give Your Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man a go. Really, yeah, just the way that just in terms of the way it looks is really just, I love it. And I think that was the main draw card for me. Just the animation style was really, really cool. So yeah, definitely recommend you go check out Your Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man if you are a fan of Spider-Man himself. Now, before I actually jump into my number one favorite show for 2025 that I've watched, I want to give a quick shout out and honorable mention to a couple of series that didn't quite make my top 5, but they're pretty close up there for me. One of the shows being Doctor Who. I am quite a big Doctor Who fan, more casual than I am because I've not watched the old Who series. I've only watched the new Who series. But then when the Disney Plus Who series came out, it just kind of cemented the fact that I'm still I really love this particular world of sci-fi and fantasy, and it's really Doctor Who. Definitely one of those type of shows where if you like it, you like it. If you don't, you don't. It is it's supposedly a family friendly show. And that's how they have been advertising it ever since the release, ever since the old Doctor Who. But then we got into the revival in 2005, and then that's where my first foray into Doctor Who began. I started with the 2005 series, and my goodness, the stories they tell, the different enemies you come across, the amount of drama that comes through, but still doesn't take it too far that it's not going to be too scary, or, it's tame enough that the whole family can essentially watch it, right? And that's what I love about this series. Now, unfortunately, the way that the new Doctor Who had started with Disney Plus is no longer going to be releasing them on their platform, which is a bit of a shame because we only got 2 seasons with Ncuti Gatwa, and Ncuti Gatwa was a really amazing doctor for his run. It's just a little bit unfortunate that the writing, in terms of the episodes that he got, they weren't all that great. They weren't terrible, but they were good, but they weren't the best that they could have been compared to the original revival of the series. So this is where we don't know what's going to be happening at the moment. The BBC is just going to continue doing it on their end, but then I'm not sure how they're going to be publishing it to the rest of the world. So we'll see what happens. I'm hoping that we'll be able to get it back on the way that we used to watch it here in Australia, which I'm assuming will be ABC. But that's, neither here nor there. Or more so we don't know what's happening. There hasn't been any kind of confirmation about that. So yeah, I'm a big fan of Doctor Who. And that's thanks to my friend Michael over on my the podcast that we do together. We've been sort of going on and off because Kendall is new to the Doctor Who series. So we've kind of introduced her to Doctor Who maybe a year or 2 ago. And so we've kind of decided to do a watch along with her, in the sense that whatever episodes she's watching, that's what we watch. And then we end up talking about it on our podcast. We did that at the time of recording. We did that already today. And we've just finished season 7, episode 5, which was The Weeping Angels Take Manhattan. and or The Angels Take Manhattan. Sorry, The Angels Take Manhattan is the title of that episode. And yeah, just such a good series. So Doctor Who, absolutely awesome. It is a bit of a long series, not gonna lie. Each episode is about 40 to 50 minutes each. So if you are looking at jumping into the Doctor Who series, I mean, I did start at the beginning from the Christopher Eccleston run and then continued from there. It's probably the best way to actually learn about all these different doctors and the enemies and whatnot, so that you can get all the different references. However, a lot of the things that are in the news in the revival series of the franchise actually references a lot from the old original series, to which I have no clue about. So I'm glad I have Michael in my life for that, because he is the biggest Doctor Who nerd, or the biggest Whovian, as we are called. And so he's watched the original series, and so he knows the lore. He knows almost every little bit about Doctor Who. He's also gone out of his way to, watch and listen to radio plays and all that sort of stuff of Doctor Who. He really loves this particular franchise. So it's a really good, fun show to watch. But I'm just letting you know, it is a little bit of a commitment to get through, even though there's actually not as many episodes as you think there might be. Like it's saying the Doctor Who between 2005 to 2022 series, there's only 175 episodes. It sounds like a lot, but it's not, because each season, I think there's about 12 different, it got to 12 different doctors, but I think there was only how many? It was 9. It was from 9 to 12 in this particular run. So that's only 4 different doctors. We had 4 different doctors, and there was only about, I think how many seasons were there in that particular run? Let me have a quick look. Excuse me, please. 13 seasons? Yes. There were 13 seasons in that particular series. 13. So there's 13 doctors. Sorry. Up until before Shooty Gut was run, there were 13 doctors. And it ended on Jodie Whittaker. It ended on Jodie Whittaker's Doctor. But it started with Christopher Eccleston. If you're ever so inclined to watch it, I would definitely recommend watching it from the beginning if you can find a way to do that. It's actually really, really good. So yeah, big shout out to the Doctor Who series. I really enjoyed it, and I'm also enjoying the rewatch with Kendall, to sort of remind myself, essentially. So I've been really enjoying it. One other shout out that I want to give before I jump into my number 1 in this top 5 is Georgie and Mandy's First Marriage. Now, this show is on HBO Max. The first season has already ended. It's in its second season right now. It is a spin-off series to Young Sheldon, and Young Sheldon is the prequel series to The Big Bang Theory. I hope you've kept up with me there. I loved The Big Bang Theory. It was a great sitcom. The fact that they decided to do a spin-off prequel to Sheldon's life when he was younger was a really interesting concept. And that show also went for, I think, about 7 seasons before it ended. And I love that. the way that season 7, the way that young Sheldon ends is actually quite sad, because then you go into Georgie and Mandy's first marriage, which Georgie, for those of you who aren't aware, Georgie is the older brother of Sheldon, and he ends up knocking up a much older young lady. And because they're in Texas, they sort of decide to go out of their way to get married. And even though he is himself quite young, I think he finished high school or he dropped out. I can't remember. But yeah, the thing that I will mention is that the format, in terms of, they're all comedies. But the format that they decided to take with young Sheldon was actually not necessarily a sitcom kind of. The way that they filmed it wasn't necessarily like a sitcom. It was more of a comedy show. But then when they went into Georgie and Mandy's first marriage, they went back to the studio-based sitcom series in the way that they're filming it. And it's actually, I kind of like that they decided to, do something a little bit different with young Sheldon, but then they came back to the studio world in terms of sitcoms. I do prefer the studio multicam sort of version of sitcoms most of the time, but sometimes it's nice to sort of go outside of that and do, and sort of the way that young Sheldon did. So that was actually really fun. I love that Georgie and Mandy's first marriage also brings in some of the characters you do meet in young Sheldon. So apart from Sheldon, though, at this particular point in time, there has not been, Sheldon has not come into the world of Georgie and Mandy's. So at the moment, in terms of the timing for this series, Sheldon has gone off to Caltech. He's gone to college at his young age, and he's in California. So that's why at this particular time we don't see Sheldon in this particular show. I wouldn't be surprised if they bring him in for an episode at some point. But so far they've brought in Georgie's mother, they've his sister, who is the twin of Sheldon, the pastor at Georgie's local church. But because Georgie and Mandy's first marriage is, they've actually moved into Mandy's family home to raise their child and sort of go through their marriage together. So they're actually living under Mandy's parents' roof. But yeah, it's really fun. But they do still bring up like some feels. If you've watched young Sheldon, you'd understand what I'm talking about. And the way that they did it, it does get emotional, like at some points. I love sometimes when they do that in sitcoms, where they bring in some emotion into the story. And so Georgie and Mandy's first marriage actually does do that. So that I really do enjoy it. It's still in the middle of season 2. I'm waiting for the rest of the episodes to finish up so that I can actually finish watching that show, because it's actually really fun. Okay, so it is now time to jump in to my number 1 favorite show that I have watched this year. And this is kind of out of left field for me, but it's not really, because this is a sitcom. The only thing is, this is not a nerdy show. This is more of a life kind of a situation. I don't know how to put it, but it's a sitcom. It has Nathan Lane. and he is a comedic genius. Oh, I completely forgot that I have been watching. Also, before now that I said Nathan Lane, it all instantly reminded me that I have been watching Only Murders in the Building. Another shout out to that show as well. Absolutely, really love that show. It's so good. And they just wrapped up on their season 5 this year, I think it was. And I really liked watching that show. See, this is why I didn't actually add. Rewind. I forgot to add Only Murders in the Building into my list on IMDb because I forgot that I had this list. And then I forgot to add it in once I found this list. My poor brain right now. I'm like, maybe that is the one thing that I've been loving so much. No, I still stand like okay, if I was to rearrange things, I would, but I've already mentioned it now. Only Murders in the Building is actually really fun too. Absolutely awesome. Steve Martin and Martin Short together with Selena Gomez as the middle person between the two. Absolutely hilarious trio. I love them, and it's a great show. I love me a murder mystery, but if there's comedy involved, it makes it even better. So yeah, Only Murders in the Building, really cool. Go check that out as well. But my number one that I watched this year, very unexpected for me, because this was one of those type of shows where I came across it. Oh wait, no, did I come across it? No, I was recommended it. I was recommended to watch this show by Sam from Sam Dan's Couch. Shout out to my friends over at Sam Dan's Couch. And I ended up watching Mid-Century Modern. And this stars Nathan Lane, Matt Bomer, and Nathan Lee Graham. And it's essentially, let me just read it off how it is on IMDb. After an unexpected death, 3 best friends, gay gentlemen of a certain age, decide to spend their golden years living together in Palm Springs, where the wealthiest one lives with his mother. This is kind of like a Golden Girls kind of situation in terms of the living situation, right? Apart from the fact that they're three gay men living under the one roof with one of their mothers. One of their mothers meaning Nathan Lane's character, whose name is Bunny Schneiderman, ends up moving in with his mother, Sybil Schneiderman, and it's Sybil's house that they move into. And Jerry and Arthur are the friends that move in with Bunny. And so we have Jerry, who is a flight attendant, and Arthur, I believe, is I can't remember what his job was. But yeah, they love each other, and you can tell in this particular show. It's a studio-based sitcom, and it's absolutely hilarious. But it also has the most amount of feels I have ever experienced in a sitcom. This show made me cry so much, but it not only from laughter, but also sadness, because of the things that they've gone through. And it's these guys are essentially it's based in the modern world, like right now, these times, and they're trying to, because they're also a lot older. They're not as young as they think they are, so they kind of had these like hard times of trying to date. So their dating world is a little bit different. Bunny is always out on the lookout for love. So are the other two. And it was just every episode just had me cracking up so much. And there's 10 episodes in the season. I don't know if they're going to bring out a second season. I really hope they do. I don't know if there will be a second season, but I absolutely loved it. Now, this one's actually on Hulu, but because I am in Australia and we don't have Hulu here, it is Hulu on Disney Plus for us. So it is on Disney Plus. And yeah, I would absolutely recommend watching this show because it is so fun, very entertaining. The quips, the jokes, the physical comedy you'll get from this, the cast that come into this particular world. Rich and Kind is in here. Rhea Perlman, Jesse Tyler Ferguson. Like, it is so fun to watch. Linda Levine, and unfortunately she wasn't able to finish the series because she did pass away, I think, before the series had ended. And so when the final episode aired, or at least when I watched the final episode, I was heartbroken to find out that she had passed away before they had finished filming. And so the last episode, they announced that Sybil has passed away and Bunny is just absolutely distraught. And so Jerry and Arthur have to be there for Bunny in order to make Bunny feel better. It's a really good show. I really loved watching this series. I did not think it would be for me, but I am so glad Sam recommended this to me because if I hadn't have known, I probably wouldn't have tried it out. It is from the creators of Will and Grace. So if you did enjoy that show, you will absolutely love this one. I'm worried that we're not going to get a second season, and it absolutely deserves it. I don't know. I love seeing these characters together. They're absolutely awesome. And they're very heartwarming as well. They can be bitchy at times, of course. But it just has so much heart. And it's just very life affirming as well, in a way. And there's obviously a lot of like current time issues that are brought up in the show. So yeah, it's just, I love Mid-Century Modern. Please go watch it. If you have the means, please go watch Mid-Century Modern. If you enjoy sitcoms, you definitely will love this one. It's so fun. It is absolutely amazing. But yeah, that is my top 5 shows that I have watched this year, in the year that is 2025. Thank you all so much for tuning in to this episode. Let me know what your top 5 shows that you watched this year are in the comments. You can also comment on each episode over on Spotify, so please let me know there if you'd like. Otherwise, it should also be up on YouTube, so you can leave comments under the YouTube video as well. Yeah, that's it. Thank you for listening. If you enjoy the Many Thoughts I Have podcast, I'd really appreciate it if you could give it a 5-star review or rating on your podcast service of choice. To keep up with me, head on over to foolishfuji.com for all of my socials, content, and koala merch. Links to all that will be in the show notes. That's it from me. Remember to look after yourself and your mental health, and happy thinking, friends.